Set during the Chosen era, Dear Hongrang opens with a flashback to a tragic day in the Min family guild, when Sim Jae-yi discovered her younger brother Hongrang had mysteriously vanished. Just days earlier, Hongrang had reported seeing a ghostly figure dressed in white in the nearby forest, and had fallen ill soon after. Despite the Min family's wealth and influence and widespread efforts including posters across the region, Hongrang was never found. His disappearance devastated the family. Their mother Minyeon Ui turned to alcohol and drugs to numb her pain, while their father Sim Yo-guk controversially adopted a boy named Moo Jin to fill the void left by his son, against his wife's wishes. 12 years pass with no sign of Hongrang. Over the years, many men claiming to be the lost son come forward, hoping to inherit the family's wealth. Knowing these men are frauds, Yo-guk punishes them severely, often cutting off their fingers. Among the family, Jae-yi is most heartbroken. Deeply bonded with her brother and believing it was her duty to protect him, she carries a burden of guilt. Determined to find the truth, she continues to search the forest and towns for any clues. Then, unexpectedly, an informant brings news. A man matching Hongrang's description was rescued after a serious fall and suffered memory loss. Raised by a female entertainer, he later became a wandering soldier. Yo-guk remains skeptical, but Yeon-ui clings to hope and has the young man brought to the guild. Upon arrival, she is certain he is her son. Physical measurements and a quick blood test seem to confirm it. The family celebrates his return after 12 long years. Everyone except Jae-yi, who is unconvinced. She remains firm in her belief that the real Hongrang is still out there, waiting to be found. After the adult Hongrang is welcomed back into the Sin family, one detail distinguishes him from all the previous imposters. He doesn't try to prove his identity by recalling past memories. Unlike the others who told fabricated stories based on what they'd learned about the real Hongrang, this man simply claims to have lost his memory. He gradually pretends to recall minor details over time. Yo-guk and Yeon-ui are convinced by his act, but it's eventually revealed that he is not related to the Sim family at all. He is an imposter, though one with a carefully crafted mission. Interestingly, the series never reveals his real name. Since he was raised using the name Hongrang, he's referred to as such throughout the story. In his childhood, however, he was cruelly called Rodent Scrap, a name that reflected how worthless his life was to those around him. Rodent Scrap was born into a poor, enslaved family, serving a noble household. Like his parents, he was treated harshly. In fact, he was used as a talisman, punished on behalf of the noble family's son whenever the boy did something wrong. This inhumane treatment eventually led him to escape with his mute friend In-ho, another enslaved boy. They survived on their own for a short time before being kidnapped by the Snowman, a figure whispered about in villages where children mysteriously disappeared. Though believed to be a ghost, the Snowman was actually an albino man working for a shadowy figure known as the Painter. The Painter held Hongrang and In-ho captive and subjected them to prolonged torture, until a woman named Kotnim arrived and rescued them. Kotnim was once the mistress of Sim Yo-guk. He had professed love for her, but ultimately betrayed her. When she became pregnant with his child, Yo-guk, under pressure from his wife Yeon-ui, stabbed Kotnim and left her for dead. The attack killed the baby but miraculously spared Kotnim's life. Surviving this trauma, she formed a secret organization of assassins with the aim of one day taking revenge on Yo-guk. When Kotnim found Rodent Scrap, she noticed he resembled the missing Sim Hongrang and decided to raise him under that name. Her plan was to send him into the Sim household as the lost son, eliminate the other heirs, Jae-yi and the adopted Moojin, and eventually have him inherit everything. Later, her strategy evolved. Instead of focusing solely on the inheritance, she instructed Hongrang to obtain the partition papers, legal documents tied to the Min family guild's ownership, and hand them over to her. With these in hand, Kotnim would be able to take possession of the family's entire fortune as revenge against the man who once tried to destroy her. The mystery of the real Hongrang's fate is finally revealed near the end of Dear Hongrang. Tragically, the young boy who had gone missing 12 years earlier had died in an accident. Hongrang's stepmother, Yeon-ui, harbored deep resentment toward Jae-yi, Yo-guk's daughter from his previous marriage, and wanted all the family inheritance to go solely to her own biological son. Driven by jealousy and hatred, she constantly tried to turn Hongrang against Jae, even arranging a harmful ritual through her trusted shaman, Madame Guigokja, to bring misfortune to the girl. However, Hongrang defied his mother's hatred. He loved Jae as a real sister and wanted to protect her. One night, he attempted to destroy the cursed totem used in the ritual against Jae. While doing so, he slipped, suffered a fatal head injury, and died before help arrived. A maid discovered his body, but Madame Guigokja secretly removed it, possibly to shield Jae from being blamed. She buried the boy's body at the bottom of a well within the guild grounds, while the Sim family continued to believe Hongrang had vanished without a trace. Throughout much of the series, the grown-up imposter Hongrang and his mute companion In-ho are on a secret mission to find the man who had once kidnapped and tortured them as boys, a figure only known as the Painter. The shocking truth emerges. The Painter is none other than Grand Prince Hampyeong, a royal figure and the most powerful man in the region. Though he posed as a harmless nobleman obsessed with art, Hampyeong was, in reality, a twisted, delusional psychopath. Hampyeong believed he could transcend his human form and become a divine being through an ancient forbidden ritual. To do this, he needed a series of rare ingredients, such as newborn animals, locks of virgin hair, and 6 talismans created from human skin. Using the snowman as his accomplice, Hampyeong kidnapped children and used the skin on their backs to paint the talismans. Among them were Hongrang and In-ho. In the climax, as Hampyeong prepares to perform the dark ritual once again, Hongrang breaks free and confronts him. In a brutal act of vengeance, Hongrang severs the prince's hands, his most cherished tools as an artist, and then fatally slashes his face. Just before he dies, Hampyeong sees Hongrang's back, once used for the talismanic painting, now disfigured with scars. In this poetic justice, the prince dies realizing that his most prized artwork has been destroyed. As Dear Hongrang draws to a close, every member of the Sim family is forced to face the consequences of their past actions. Some meet tragic ends, while others find bittersweet closure. Kotnim finally confronts her former lover Sim Yo-guk and reveals her long-hidden scheme. She had raised and planted the imposter Hongrang in the Sim household as part of her elaborate revenge. Furious, Yo-guk attempts to attack her, but is stopped by her loyal bodyguard. In the end, Kotnim kills Yo-guk, avenging the betrayal and violence he inflicted on her in the past. However, her own injuries from the confrontation suggest she won't survive much longer either. Meanwhile, the truth about the real Hongrang's death comes to light. Jae, no longer willing to tolerate her stepmother's cruelty, confronts Minyoni, condemning her for the hatred and greed that ultimately caused her own son's death. Although the adult Hongrang, the imposter, has the chance to kill Yoni, he chooses to spare her. Instead, he leaves her to live with the weight of her actions. By the end of the story, Yoni has lost her mind and lives in delusion with Madame Guigokja, still clinging to the belief that her son will return. The adopted son Mujin, once loyal to the Sim family, turns against them when Yo-guk refuses to approve of his love for Jae. Siding with Grand Prince Hampyeong, he betrays the family. However, when the prince abducts Jae, Mujin has a change of heart and risks his life to save her. In a courageous act, he fights the prince's guards and helps her escape, but suffers a fatal wound in the process. Meanwhile, the adult Hongrang, who had endured horrific abuse in childhood as a kidnapped boy used for ritualistic tattoos, begins to suffer from the lasting effects of the chemical treatments inflicted on him. Substances like alum, arsenic, and bleach, used to lighten the boy's skin for the painter's talismans, begin to deteriorate his health. He experiences worsening vision problems and disorientation, which he can no longer hide from Jae. Despite this, Hongrang devotes himself fully to protecting her. After confirming his true identity to Jae and removing any barrier between them, he hides her in a mountain home and makes a deal with the merchant guards to keep her safe. He even fights off Mujin and his men once again and rescues her from the prince's stronghold, but his health rapidly declines due to the toxic exposure and the wounds sustained during his battle with Hampyeong. In the series' final moments, Hongrang dies peacefully in Jae's arms, fully aware that he won't survive, but comforted by her presence and their shared love. Sim Jae-yi emerges as one of the few survivors in Dear Hongrang, having withstood every betrayal and danger thrown her way. Determined to break free from her family's dark legacy, she gathers substantial evidence proving her father, Yeol-guk, was involved in the prince's heinous crimes, kidnapping and torturing children. She submits the evidence to the authorities, ensuring that the truth about the Sim family's atrocities is finally exposed. With her conscience clear, Jae-yi takes control of the family guild and repurposes it as a safe haven for the very people her family once oppressed, especially the children who had suffered under the painter's cruelty. Despite her courage and accomplishments, Jae-yi carries deep sorrow after losing Hongrang, her lover. But having spent 12 long years grieving her missing brother, she's no stranger to heartache. At least now, she has the peace of knowing the truth and can begin to heal. In the series' poignant final scene, Jae-yi is shown sitting quietly on her rooftop, claiming she can still see Hongrang, just as she once imagined seeing her brother years ago. In a symbolic moment, she's also seen standing in a snow-covered field beside Hongrang. This powerful image suggests that the love and memories of both her brother and her beloved continue to live on in her heart, giving her strength for the journey ahead.